Welcome back to the Silicon Diet, guys. This is episode 4. We're in Bangalore and we're joined by our first guest on the podcast, Neha Reddy.
First guest and first episode in India.
Fox, pretty huge. So just a quick little bit of context about Neha, although you probably already know her off of.
I'm really not that popular.
Neha's a Bangalore-based operator, former early-stage VC investor. She currently works at Headout, where she's helping scale a global travel experiences business.
It's a pretty good intro, actually.
Neha's been working before Headout. Neha worked at Antler, where she was investing in pre-seed startups, and she has a very big online presence
It's not.
on Twitter. But yeah, we're very excited to dig into what she's learned in the investing side, and to see what experiences she's had in Bangalore and in tech. So yeah, welcome Neha.
This is what ChatGPT said about Neha.
Yeah.
ChatGPT said this?
ChatGPT said
Okay, cool. I don't mind it. It's
Yeah.
a good intro, yeah.
Nice. So, okay, I guess right off the bat, what are some things that, you're excited about for 2026, considering the year just started?
About work, about life.
All of the above.
Oh, damn. I'm very excited about Head Out. I think we're doing some really cool stuff in travel. And that's only going to get bigger. So that's exciting. Lots of stuff on the fitness front for me. So I'm doing High Rocks in April. So that's exciting. Yeah, and just life, I guess.
Pretty cool. Where do you see, what is the plan with Head Out for this year? And, if you want to give the audience a bit of context about what exactly Head Out is, what you guys do.
Okay. Headout's the marketplace for booking any travel experiences around the world. So we're live in about 200 cities. So anything from your top attractions to museums to guided tours to food tours, you can book any and all of that on Headout. The plan for this year is to just scale the marketplace to a lot more destinations, a lot more different kinds of experiences. So that's very exciting. We're also making a huge bet in AI, something that's going to probably come out in the mid of this year. So that's also quite exciting. At least I think that's one of the more exciting consumer AI applications that are being built around the world. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the plan with Head Out for this year, yeah.
Nice. So do you see what exactly is this AI thing? Because, we're kind of interested in spilling the sauce.
I don't know if I should talk about it, actually. But actually, let me not talk about it because the product's not launched yet. So yeah. Yeah.
But
We should give some more news about Head Out. They just raised.
We didn't just raise.
Recently raised.
No, it was back in 2022.
In 2020.
The research is really bad.
Yeah.
come on, Abby. But
How much was it though?
Some 60, 70 minutes.
$70 million. Yeah.
that's very cool. But yeah, I think we were kind of briefly discussing this earlier too. But do you think is this the year where consumer AI pops off?
Oh. Do you want it in India context or in general?
Let's address India first, and then we can kind of expand.
I don't think a lot of people in India are even actively thinking of building in consumer AI. I think a lot of talent is still thinking about problem statements that are probably very India specific, right? Like if you think about quick commerce or if you think about education that is being done in a very India first context in some ways. I think there a lot of that getting built, and possibly consumer AI is still not as hot as it is back in Mali. So I don't know if this is the year actually, but I think a lot of younger people, I guess, are actively thinking about consumer AI and what that means for different sectors and things like that. But in general, I'm quite excited about consumer AI in some sense. Wabi is doing quite well, I think, at least coming out to be one of the more interesting ones for me, particularly on consumer AI. But yeah, it's exciting. I don't know what's going to happen in this year, but yeah.
Abby, what are your thoughts on consumer AI?
I'm super big on consumer AI. I make consumer playing cards, so everybody knows already. But
Oh, by the way, yeah, go check out his card store.
It's just subtle.
we already plugged it in the last episode.
You got to keep plugging out, yeah.
No, I keep selling
The
it.
discount code will be in the description.
Just use discount code
It's kind of crazy that I'm not going to get one pack of cards with my face on it.
You're gonna get a pack of cards just because you came on this podcast.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But I think, speaking of consumer AI, pretty big launch, Claude Co-Work kind of launch.
That you guys are going to help me set up.
Yep,
Yes.
yep. But absolutely a game changer, honestly. Like it's been automating so many administrative, non-technical tasks for me that, I just didn't get around to doing.
But what's so magical about Claude Co-Work? Because a lot of people are talking about it. There's a lot of hype around it. But
There's definitely a lot of hype around it. I think essentially what it is a Claude Code wrapper that has access to a file system, your file system. And I think, again, the key now that all the rage right now is context engineering, right? Wherein everything's about finding the right context, etc. And what we're seeing now is these models have gotten significantly better at just using Bash, right? Using your terminal to do things. So I think what Claude Co-Work is doing is, helping you build presentations, helping you build documentation. It's able to source the right context on your computer. And it's able to kind of automate a lot of those repetitive tasks. And it's also, using Claude for Chrome, you're able to give it access to a web browser. You're able to give it access to a bunch of your applications. But I think, pretty much anything that you do in a computer, we're getting to a stage where that can kind of be automated.
is it fair to describe it as a general purpose agent?
I would say so, yeah.
Is that what Manas is also trying to do?
Definitely, yeah. So yeah, basically two different ways of doing it. I think Claude Co-Work is more local on your computer. Manus is more like cloud deployed, I guess. But Manus did just get acquired by Meta. I think
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
we did discuss this on the podcast. I mean, massive acquisition for them too.
What was the valuation?
I think it was a $1.5 or $2 billion. But yeah, we're seeing, consumer AI really picking up this year with I think what we've been seeing so far is that, the first vertical that's completely been transformed is code. Is code. Wherein, I feel like every programmer today is probably using some form of AI in their workflows.
And is Claude Code the best one out there?
I think that's a bit of I think we're getting to a stage where everything is really good. It's
What are the other alternatives now? Cursor,
you have
Lovable.
Cursor, you have Codex. I think Lovable is less engineer focused, more just
Lovable's an Antler portfolio company.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Back in Nordics, but yeah.
nice.
They're European, right?
I mean, Antler's around the world, so it's a global portfolio, yeah.
Do you want to speak about your experience at Antler? What are some things that you had fun with when you were working at Antler?
Oh. I think the biggest thing I miss about working in VC and working at Antler is probably just the sheer number of like new ambitious people I was meeting. I kind of miss that a little bit. And because we were also doing pre-seed investing at the super early stage, we were kind of like meeting people across the board, right? Like I've spoken to founders who are building counter drone tech to people doing something in like science and consumer brands and things like that, right? So across the board, really, really interesting characters, experiences. So that's something I miss. But yeah, is there anything specific you want to talk about?
I think more so in terms of like, let's say, name the coolest startup that you kind of funded as
Ooh.
a time there.
It's a company called Co-Work. It's in age tech. It's kind of a mix of hardware plus some sort of like a software level. The whole thesis is falls happen to be one of the largest reasons for any injuries and things like that with like older people, right? Like they're also like prone to like falls a lot higher. So they started going super deep into how do we solve for fall detection as a problem statement.
Right.
And they figured out different like hardware alternatives for that. Realized the stuff that they were getting in China and places like that were just not cutting it. So they started building hardware here in India. So it's a fall detection device that you can place in your home or your bedroom, anywhere, right? And with that, you can sort of like track if any elderly in your family is just like prone to falls and things like that. There's obviously like a whole, what happens if a fall gets detected? Can you actually automatically maybe send an ambulance and things like that? So there's some interesting like ancillaries that you can build around it. But I think this is probably quite cool. I think age tech was one of the spaces that it worked on.
I think health tech will be like super massive.
I think health tech and hardware. I think some really, really interesting things coming out of India. Ultra Human, I don't know if you guys know, but is also doing quite well.
It's a wearable startup, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a Aura competitor. It's a Ring. Which also doing quite well. So there are a bunch of health hardware stuff. That's quite
That's a great segue to the OpenAI acquisition.
the health one. What's it called?
Torch,
Torch.
$100 million acquisition, 5-person team.
That's crazy.
It's actually so crazy. But anyway, Torch is like a unified data platform for all your health data.
Oh, sick.
So now agents can access your data and give you ongoing recommendations, just like Pulse, on how to improve your health. And I think in India, it has a potential to be huge.
Dude, actually, the government was doing something. You know how UPI is like this like interoperable thing for BMS? They're trying to do something similar with health and education also. I don't know how far they have gotten, but I think that could be very interesting. Very cool.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think ChatGPT launched health. I think Anthropic pretty much followed that right away with Claude for health, which connects to Apple Fitness and, all of your health.
Wearables? That's
Which
pretty
is-
cool.
Which is pretty cool. But yeah, so, a couple of questions for you, Neha. I think, what do you see about Bangalore or startups that are being built in Bangalore that are building for India? Mm-hmm. And what do you think are the hottest startups? What are the hottest startups in Bangalore kind of building right now? And what do you see to be a trend for the next couple of years?
I think what's interesting about building in India is I think the startups that are getting built in Bangalore kind of different from startups that are getting built in Bombay, kind of different from startups that are getting built in Delhi, right? I think there's some level of the local ecosystem, culture and nuances that are kind of like, say, Bangalore would have a lot of deep tech, AI, that kind of stuff. Bombay, because it's closer to the financial institutions, right? So fintechs kind of picking up in Bombay. Delhi obviously is the culture capital in some ways, right? So a lot of like consumer stuff. People whose family maybe have some sort of like a thing in certain sector, right? Like the newer generation is possibly doing something modern with that in the north. So I think that's at least like some local nuances. But I think in Bangalore, there's a lot of interesting stuff that's happening in AI, in deep tech. There's a bunch of like residencies and like hacker houses and like things like that that are popping up, which I think is quite cool because I think it was kind of the need of the hour. Because I think for the longest time, we used to talk a lot about how the ambition for a lot of Indian founders was not as larger than life or like big picture as founders in the valley, right? Like you obviously have like your Steve Jobs and like people like that. These larger than life figures. You kind of don't have that big picture thinking in India in some ways, which I think is changing a little bit because now we have seen some successes. Yeah, your Nikhil Kamat's, Dipinder Goyal's. Now you have like enough poster children in some ways.
A lot of people are trying to build an online persona too, right? Founders in general, I think they're definitely getting out there.
Yeah, and I think it helps, right? And then any kid who's even like sitting in Pune or Ahmedabad or like anywhere else also can is thinking of building a company, which has never happened before. So
Yeah.
I think all of that is quite cool. Yeah.
When will we see the Cluely of India?
The Cluely of India.
Abhirup should be with the Cluely.
Now
The battle.
Yeah, I think we're probably a little while away from the Cluely of India.
Yeah. Okay, I think another question, right? You've kind of seen the world from an investor point of view, based off of your time at Antler, and then now you've kind of moved into the actual building a startup phase, right? And how was that switch for you? And
I like how you said actual part, like VC was not actual, but
I mean,
yeah.
okay, yeah, but I think what I'm trying to understand is, how is it different? Are you having more fun with it?
I'm having so much fun.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways, but I also really enjoyed my time in VC. I think this would not have happened if that didn't happen, right? And I think with VC, one, you just have such a outside-in view into any businesses, right? I mean, I was looking at consumer tech, which is essentially the space that Headout's in, but I know so much about like nuances of what it means to build a marketplace business model that I probably would not have had just as an investor who was looking in. Of course, I can speak to a lot of people who have done that. I can do all of that, but I think this just being so close to the product and business in itself. And I think that's extremely different. And I think it's also a space that I'm personally super passionate about. So I think that helps.
But so what are some insights that kind of help you work in your day to day that you're probably doing differently because
I was an
you're an
investor.
investor?
Oh. I think industries like VC, investment bank, any like in industry that is closer to where the capital is, right, kind of teaches you how the world works in a lot of ways. And when you can understand how the world works, you can pretty much like figure out how most business models work, most people work. And I think that sort of a breadth in trying to figure out how different business models across different markets, different geographies, all of that, I think just comes handy when I'm, say, speaking to people from our Japan team or like our US team and things like that, right? I think it's also a lot of things like building my own network, which kind of was a big part of my job in VC. I think some of the biggest problems can just be solved by putting the right people at it. And if you have a good network, finding those right people is quite easy. So I feel like I draw a lot of those stuff from my time in VC to now. But yeah, I think even my day to day is like very different, right? Like my in VC, I think it was just a lot of work got done in meetings. Now a lot of work gets done when I'm not in a meeting. So I think it's also like things like that. And yeah.
Was the VC your first job out of college?
I actually worked at I mean not so I started working at this company called Leap.Club, which now they've winded down, but that was towards the end of college. But then immediately after, like they gave me a full-time offer and I started working with them while I was still in college actually. So I did that for a few months even after graduation, and then Antler happened.
Let me ask you the flip side, right? What investing belief did you stop believing in after you started operating?
I think there are a lot like that I used to theoretically believe as an investor that have kind of now gotten validated a lot more. I don't think if the reverse has happened. Say things, and because we were doing pre-seed investing, right, which is pretty much like the earliest stage of investing, and there's a lot of, I mean, there is science to it, but there's still it's about trying to understand founders as people, and how do you sort of think about sectors at a much longer time horizon and like things like that, right? Because ideas pivot, the first MVP is not going to look like the actual product that's going to go out and things like that. So I think a lot of my time in investing was trying to come up with this framework on who even makes for a good founder.
So what is that? What characteristics do you look for?
We actually had a framework back in Antler, and we used to look for things. There is an acronym. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but then the few things that we would look for was ambition. I think something that I was like talking about earlier also, right? I think the ability for founders to be super ambitious about whatever that they're building. I think ambition is one thing that we used to look for. Agency, of course. Now I think that word's just been like overused and abused by very many people. But I think we didn't look for very conventional traits like, hey, has this person worked in an e-commerce business to be able to build an e-commerce idea, right? We were looking for things like this, ambition, agency. I think some sort of like an obsession with the kind of problem statement that they're solving for. And I think that came from a point of view that you don't have to be a subject matter expert in the idea that you're trying to build, but at least obsessive enough to go super, super deep. What were the others? I think thinking clarity of some sorts. I think the way that you would, I think this sort of like ties into how you can be a great founder, but can you also be a great leader? Because I think that also becomes super important once if the company survives long enough for it to become a big org and things like that, right? I think grit was something that we used to actively look for. I think it's one of those things that's extremely tough to measure. But we would speak to founders a lot about stuff that they've done in the past. Their actually a lot about their life, like how was their childhood growing up.
So now that you met Abhirup, do you invest in him?
I don't know a lot about him. I need to put him through my framework.
But
Yeah.
how do you kind of gauge these things? Right? Are you meeting these founders?
Do we just meet them for like extended periods of time? Like, and just, I think the amount of time that, and we used to also run something called the residency, right? So we just had access to these people for such an extended period of time. Of course, there are people who make an impression on you like within a couple of meetings, and they just have, and then the way that they tell their story and their all of that, I think you can do that into meetings, but you also can do that over an extended period of time, right? Which is what we used to do, like spend a lot of time with them. Actually, much lesser on the actual idea that they're trying to build and more on these founder characteristics and like traits in some ways, right? So, yeah.
What do you think about, the YC model, which is, you put in an application and you have a 15-minute interview, and that's all the information the VC gets in terms of gauging a founder or, or all the traits that you mentioned?
I mean, for YC, it's essentially like a volume game, right? Like they don't have to be right every single time. They just have to be right.
Yeah.
Handful of times, right? Like not even once per batch. Like it's like over an extended period of time. So they're essentially playing the volume game then when if you get enough smart companies working on problem statements that are seemingly on like the seemingly some of the hottest spaces across the board, right? Like because they don't have any sector focus. I guess the playbook is that maybe like a handful of these across a fund cycle would actually be like fund returners in some ways. So I guess for them it's essentially like a volume game. But I know that once they do give that like, I don't know, 125K is probably the first check-in, and then you spend some time in the cohort and their demo day and you can raise more money and things like that, right? So I think once you start getting into that phase, maybe some of these things like, hey, can we deeply understand them as founders and things like that probably come into play, because I know that a lot of investors, at least the ones that are good, really try to understand founders more as operators, people, than just be so obsessed about the idea itself, because that would likely change and take many different avatars over the course of companies like journey in some ways.
Fair. So similar to YC, I don't know if you've heard of Standard Capital. So Dalton was one of the partners at YC.
Okay.
Who quit to start his own Series A VC firm. And their application process is very similar to YC, wherein they make you fill out a very exhaustive application, 30-minute interview with the founders,
Okay.
and then they make the decision on
In Series A,
at Series A.
what's the check size?
It varies. So what they do is they ask the founders to give their target valuation.
Okay.
And then I think I was watching a podcast where he said he doesn't negotiate at all. So if he thinks the founders are overvaluing themselves, so it's just going to pass on the deal.
But what's he trying to solve for? Just speed of capital?
Exactly. And make it much easier and more streamlined for companies to get funded at the Series A stage and kind of pull out the entire networking aspect in terms of actually finding a VC.
Okay. I think that makes a lot more sense than the value when the volume of companies that would possibly look for a Series A funding would be a lot higher than an ecosystem like India, right? Like there will still be, I think any company that's raising a Series A would likely talk to all big funds. So I think, I don't know if India would probably have something like this. But it's interesting. I'd love to see like what his like questionnaire or what does it have that he's just doing this in 30 minutes.
I think it's a very cool, like even the YC application, right? People say like as a founder, it makes sense.
You got to make a video or something, right?
Yeah. You need to make like a 2-minute founder video or something. But I think it's a very exhaustive application, which I think founders also find really helpful to kind of define what exactly they're doing in Amser.
Yeah.
Basically pick their brain.
I mean, a lot of fundraise is basically just that, like trying to come up with a narrative that works. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. But Adi, there was some things that you wanted to talk about, right?
Data centers?
What about
With me?
go to space?
No, so we should do an exercise about what you think is going to be popping in India this year.
How about you guys make predictions? Now, do you spend a lot of time in? No, you come like once a year.
I come like once a year.
But like 2 weeks.
5 times a year.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time here.
So you guys make predictions for India, and I can
I'll
navigate.
make a very selfish prediction.
Huh?
I think customer support is going to get transformed in 2026.
Shout out your company.
Started something.
2026 is the year that agents take over support.
A2A, agent to agent.
A2A. I think everyone go to synapse.ai. But I think yeah, broadly, I think my prediction for 2026 would be, look, it's getting a lot easier to ask questions, right? Everyone just pulls out their phone, ChatGPT, Claude, PhD level intelligence in your pocket. It's going to make a lot of sense for companies to start owning the information about them that's out there, right? So as an example, let's say you have a MacBook and you need help troubleshooting it. Your first step, at least today, for me personally, would probably be to pull out ChatGPT and say, hey, my MacBook isn't working, right? What makes sense is for then ChatGPT to kind of interface with Apple and let Apple be the single verifiable source of truth for any support relating to Apple's products. So kind of put your agent out there, which is able to connect with all of these interfaces like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, because what's going to happen is the number of support queries are just going to go up and up and up, right? And it's going to be the agents that are asking these questions. It's going to be ChatGPT reaching out to Apple to answer a query, not actually me as a human reaching out to Apple. Right? So even though the number of human created tickets might be going down, I think a lot of support is now just going to be agents interacting with other agents.
And you think across all sectors or?
I think across all sectors over time for sure. But, I think high ticket volumes right now, a lot of sectors, shipping, e-commerce, travel, a lot of those sectors are seeing kind of their support being transformed very well.
You guys should talk to us.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Ali, what about you? What's your prediction?
Mine is humanoid robotics.
For 2026, you think we're going to get there?
I think the data harvesting there's a prime opportunity for data harvesting, especially in India, because the physical labor here is very manual. There's so many manual processes that are automated in a lot of American and Chinese factories where people will keep cameras on their head. There's many startups already doing this in India. Getting that POV for factory work, craftsmanship, and just any kind of manufacturing processes will be huge 2026. And also consumer AI. You were talking about FAF. I think personal assistant agents and startups like that will be...
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think another thing that would probably pick up that's kind of correlated with AI is just metals, copper. For example, I think extremely undervalued metal, but just think about the amount of copper that's going to be required to build out these data centers. But I think a lot of silver, gold have already priced in this rush per se. But I think copper is a pretty undervalued asset as of today.
But who's funding all these data centers? I think Reliance is trying to do something with data centers here.
Yeah.
The thing about data centers in India is if you have tariffs on any component of the whole process, the whole thing is screwed up because they could just build it for cheaper in US. They need to eliminate all that.
I think even with components, there's a lot of companies coming up in India, and especially relating to like technical components, right? Chips and the actual things that are required to build chips, right? Steel, for example, growing like really, really fast in India. But yeah, kind of a quick little naughty hand other than there.
Cool.
Yeah. What about you?
What? My prediction for
Your outlook
2026?
of 2026 startup wise.
I was telling you guys this. I think India outbound travel, I'm very excited by. I think in general, I think as India gets richer, as the younger people start making more money, I think things like travel, going out, things like that would probably see a massive uptick. So yeah, that's probably for 2026. I think India outbound travel is going to be massive.
You should shout out your
My company? I've been talking about it nonstop, so...
Okay, let's ask a couple quick questions, right? What do you think is a Bangalore trend SF is sleeping on?
Ooh. I think our bar culture. I think we have some like pretty fab restaurants, bars. I don't know if SF's on the same page, but
Bangalore is big on rock. I love that.
we have some pretty good cocktail bars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's big on like techno too, EDM.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's as big as SF though, I think. But it's picking up.
Okay. Let's see. What is the flip side? What is an SF trend Bangalore is kind of ignoring?
I think just a lot of this like builder culture in some ways. I think we're still sort of tuned to, hey, how do I get a 9 to 5 or like a seemingly safe-ish job as my way of making money, right? And as if you could possibly be making money being a content creator, being whoever the fuck you want to be, right? I don't know if that's happening in Bangalore as much. I mean, it's changing. There are a lot of these like hacker houses, people building some really whack stuff. But I think just this being out there and just doing really random stuff. I don't know if Bangalore's doing as much of that.
Do you want to talk about your new space in SF?
Oh yeah, we're getting an office.
Sweet.
So
It's a
like,
WeWork.
gonna be in person. It's gonna be at a WeWork. But
Very cool.
happy, like really excited to start working in person. But
I love it. I love going to the office.
yeah. I think build a good in-person culture.
Your entire like working career was completely on.
Completely remote. Yeah, from there we graduated post-COVID, so it was slightly weird. There was another thing that we kind of wanted to talk about. Let's talk about AI and dating.
Oh, yeah?
AI and dating.
Yeah, what
AI girlfriends, boyfriends?
but more so in terms of how exactly dating apps. I was reading a tweet that you kind of posted where you mentioned it makes sense for dating, for like there's a space for a dating app which connects you to maybe your second circle or like your third mutual or whatever you would call it. That
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of Keeper AI? They raised like a lot of money. My dad was telling me about this. It's basically AI matchmaking service.
Okay.
But the guys
Yeah.
have to pay a starting fee of 50K.
Okay.
nice.
So
The girls.
I don't know how much the girls need to pay, but
So this is my thing with like how people approach dating, right? Like you're trying to solve. So I think what they're trying to essentially solve for is the ratio,
Right.
like skew that happens with like most dating apps, right? It's obviously like more men on it than women. So I don't know if solving for it through this monetization thing. So my whole thing with like dating is, what are you optimizing for? You're trying to optimize for finding someone, right? Like with whatever objective that you have. And I still think the best way to possibly find that is through your extended friend group. I know if you guys know about the strength of weak ties, right? Which is essentially like how your second degree and third degree connections actually can be a lot more powerful than you think they are. So even if you want to find your next job, next person you want to go on a date with, next anything, you could most definitely find it within your extended friend circle if mapped well, right? Like, see, I know people on my Instagram, on Twitter, on through work and stuff like that, but there's not one singular place that I can access all my extended circle. If I could do that, then that'd be very cool.
Something like LinkedIn, but your second connection and then a third bring up connections. But for
A
others,
lot cooler than LinkedIn.
a lot cooler.
Not LinkedIn.
yeah, there's like massive potential for.
I've been talking about this for a long time. Someone needs to build it.
You should build it.
We should build it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. Okay. What's the best piece of advice for a first-time founder raising today in Bangalore?
Ooh. Raising money and advice regarding raising money. I think a lot of people really don't understand VC as an audience when they're trying to raise money, right? I think a lot of founders go in with the like mindset of, hey, this is an idea that I think could work and I need money. But VCs are also fund managers at the end of the day, right? Like they're fund cycles. They've also raised money from, so it's not their money. They're kind of like the gatekeepers of someone else's money. And they need to also return money at certain timelines and things like that. So then they're also looking for certain kinds of companies that allow them to do that, right? And a lot of founders don't understand. I think the story is there, but they just don't know how to piece it together. So piece it together in a way that you're speaking the language of a VC or I think if you can do a lot of that heavy lifting when you're trying to fundraise, then your just story becomes a lot clearer for VCs to even internally evangelize it and like for them to commit the money that they have to commit. It just becomes a lot easier if you're like speaking the language of who you're speaking to, right? Which is essentially the VC. I don't think a lot of people do that.
Continue with the rapid fire.
Ooh, I'm liking
Yeah.
this. I like rapid fire.
Sure. Okay. Do you think apps are becoming temporary UIs for agents?
I don't know if apps will like exist at some point. Like, do I really have to go on the Uber app to book an Uber? Like, probably not, right? Like, do I have to go on Swiggy or Zomato to book food, to order food? Probably not. So, I don't know what's gonna happen when we kind of don't have to go on any of these apps to book any of these.
Speaking of that point, did you see the Next.js
Vercel?
JSON rendering?
Yeah, they stood for context. Vercel just launched pretty big unlock for generative UI, which basically means at runtime we generate a UI for whatever use case you're looking for, right? So an example could be I'm looking for food near me, so I just ask this agent, "Hey, can you give me food options near me?" And it in real time generates the UI which shows the images or whatever else, and it's finding a way to render the information in the most efficient way at runtime, depending on the query.
And it's pulling all of this from where?
It could be multiple sources, right? Again, it's more a mode of presenting information, less about where exactly you're gathering.
So then essentially you don't have to go to any of these apps
Exactly.
to book some of these, right? So that's going to be interesting because then a lot of these apps also make a lot of money from their like internal monetization stuff. So if you stop going to an app, then that's going to be like an existential for them because they can't sell that app real estate for anything anymore.
They'll just sell their MCPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, one interesting use case was you could book a Uber and you could book your groceries and it'll be on the same screen. So you could see in real time.
Buy groceries from Uber?
No, just like
Whatever.
Oh, from
you could book 5 things and the UI can render all the things on one screen. Like however you prompt it.
Nice, nice.
I actually think we're going to stop using phones at some point.
You think so?
I think
What's going to be the interface of the future? Glasses?
Really? Or I don't know. But I think phones are, yeah, I kind of don't see the point of phones.
But I feel like every major pivot that's happened, I think about it, like we went from TVs to laptops, but TVs still exist. Like there's still far.
TVs and laptops are so different.
You went from laptops to phones. Like a lot of people went from laptops to phones, but laptops still.
But I think like TV sales are like decreasing or whatever. Right? I don't know if that's actually true. But
Definitely decreasing, but I mean the interface still exists, right? And it's definitely still going to be a subset of people that will use a phone for whatever niche use case that we.
Unless there's a better product. Johnny Ives.
I don't think
nice better form factor.
Sure.
I don't know what that could be. Like glasses. I don't know.
We could talk about your anti-portfolio.
Pocket.
Pocket.
Pocket. Let's talk about Pocket.
Okay. What about Pocket?
You said you wanted to invest in Pocket. What kind of was your thesis behind? What did you see in Pocket that made you think that they might be successful? Because I think they recently launched a device, right?
Yeah. I think the whole thesis on what is the next form factor going to be like that is going to be invisible in some ways. It's probably not your phone, but some other device that has the ability to I don't like the word, but like capture like a lot of what's happening in your life and interesting stuff that you can do around it. I mean, then the use case was very specifically around note taking, and the fact that if you can just use Pocket for note taking and stuff like that, right? So I think that was interesting, and what they were doing that was quite cool back then was I think their speech recognition models that they were building were like quite cool. Like I think if there were like 6 people in one meeting talking, Pocket was able to sort of like detect that there were 6 different people and map those like transcripts accordingly and stuff like that, right? And what was also exciting back then, and I don't know if that's the same sort of angle or thesis now, but they were also talking about how if I can have so much information about Neha from all her like personal chats, work stuff, and all of that, can you build digital twins in some ways? And what else can you do on top of this raw material that you have, right? So that was very interesting. I think the form factor was very interesting because then we, when I was looking into Pocket, did a lot of research into Friend, Humane, and then a bunch of these like different form factors, right?
Yeah.
At least this as a form factor seemed appealing, but again, this was we spoke to them like a year and a half or something ago, and then still I don't think consumer AI was as hot as it is now. And I don't think the answer on which form factor still wins is very obvious. Because there are just so many different form factors now, right? All the way from like really pretty pendants actually to glasses and things like that.
It's a new band for Meta.
Yeah.
Pickle.
Pickle.
Which is so interesting because I've done all of this, but I don't wear any wearables. I still wear an old fashioned watch. Which is
Phones are still gonna exist.
yeah, but my thing with this is, I mean, I don't think we should also like overly track our lives. Like
should
that's
touch
that's
grass.
that's yeah, we should touch. I think that's my hot take. I don't think we should obsessively track our lives this much.
Fair. That's reasonable. Okay, now genuinely rapid fire, right? Mm-hmm. What's one metric VCs secretly care about more than founders think?
Oh,
Good question.
what metric?
Metric or like, something that VCs are looking for that founders generally don't know that VCs are looking for. Spill the sauce.
I think it also like differs across stages, right? Because different investors or like across stages also trying to what do you call it? Hedge for different levels of risk at like every stage. But I think for us at pre-seed, I think I think some sort of like a customer delight, customer love, right? Like I think for some products, it's just like palpable how consumers love using the product and how much like delight it probably gives them. And I think a lot of founders who care about things like being user first and like consumer obsessed and things like that probably very naturally see this as something that they should care about. But actually, a lot of people don't, like on how like what the kind of like impact on their users actually is and if it's actually delightful. I think Blinkit is actually an addictive product to use, right? And I think the amount of like customer delight there is just unparalleled. So things like that, I guess.
Yeah. What's the pitch deck slide you almost always skip?
I think a lot of people like over your TAM, SAM, SOM slide, right? Like I think a lot of people also just spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's the right numbers to put on that or like the right math behind arriving at those numbers. Like after a point, like a 8 billion TAM and a 9 billion TAM, like I think it's like it should directionally make sense that it's a large enough market, but after a point, like your TAM SAM is like just a like I don't think you really need that slide.
Makes sense. Okay. If Bangalore were a startup stage, is it seed, Series A, or Series B?
Oh, in its current stage, that's such a good question.
ChatGPT.
It's probably like pre-series A or like pre-series A perhaps. Yeah, like there's some like early validation of the kind of companies that work, like founders that can build good ones, but I feel like there's just so much to
I would say it's like Series D.
Not really, dude. Like, no.
Because since 2012,
But if you also see the kind of Bangalore, and also I'm talking very specific to like the Bangalore ecosystem, I would say like Delhi and Bombay will probably be a little different. I think if you map all the companies that have gone public in India, the share of Bangalore is probably not as high as Delhi or Bombay. I could be kind of wrong, but it's not the highest city that's generating unicorns or probably unicorns, yes, but not like public market successes in some ways. So I think there's still a lot of like stuff to do in Bangalore.
Pretty cool.
the energy is there though versus
You think so?
other cities. I guess.
I mean, versus other cities, yeah, but I don't think is as like palpable as SF.
No. But like if you meet a founder in SF, you would recommend them to come to Bangalore versus Mumbai, Delhi, or any other city.
I feel like we definitely would, but that's also because we're like young boys in SF. I don't think a non-Indian person would go up to someone in SF and be like, "Yo, visit Bangalore."
Yeah, I mean, you're in SF. You're
And then
really
half the builders are Asian, the brown are Asian, so
Sure, fair.
fair.
Okay. What feels easier as an operator than it looked from the outside?
Or feels easier. Oh,
Using Cloud Code.
dude, you guys gotta set it up for me. What feels easier as an operator? I think always like directionally I felt that I needed to work in like some space that I was personally very excited about. But I think the because I think being an operator is like very hard. Like I'm obviously like pulling a lot more hours than what I would do as a VC, and rightfully so because the job kind of demands that. But it just makes things a lot easier if you're just personally very interested in the kind of like problem statements that you're trying to solve, right? Like if you ask me to sell B2B software, like I will not do that. Like I will not spend like 14 hours a day trying to do that. But somehow I've found this like really interesting setup where it's a space that I'm personally very excited about, but it's also a company that's doing very well. And the kind of problem statements from a business point of view are also very exciting to solve. Yeah, I think that's probably what makes it feel easier if it's a space that you're personally very excited about.
Nice, nice.
How many more questions do you have?
I have like maybe 3 more questions.
It's more like GPT's question.
Yeah, it's GPT.
It's a short list of a short list.
It's a short list or a short list.
Is raising less capital now a flex or a constraint?
Oh, honestly, then it depends on the. So this is my thing with like generalizing some of these, right? Which is they're just so specific to the kind of business that you're building. I think you can very well build like a handbag business and not raise a lot of money and still be a good founder with a good business and things like that. I don't think you need to raise as much. Like engineering talent is, I mean, you could argue that it's getting cheaper because you can get Claude Code to do possibly like most of the stuff in some ways, right? So then your initial hires will probably not be as expensive as they used to be. So then the capital that you raise also can go longer, but then your distributions also become expensive. So you guys take away from talent and like put into distribution. I don't know, but it kind of depends on the company also. But yeah, I think there are now enough examples of you not having to raise a lot of money to get a positive success in some ways. Like you can, like this 5 people like sold their company to OpenAI, I guess, for 100 million. So yeah.
That's a good point. Now VCs probably need to offer more value than just giving you money. So
That's always been true.
like Antler's school or like residence program is a
Yeah.
perfect example.
But do you think bootstrapping is getting cooler culturally?
100%.
I think so. I think the fact that you can own a lot more of what you're building. Yes. But then I think there's certain ideas or companies that require the capital that they need, right? And sometimes I think it's better off that you like raise the money that you do than trying to be bootstrapped in some ways, because then you're not allowing like external not just capital, but also like with that comes like advice and opening doors and things like that, right? Which could possibly happen much quicker if you just raise the capital and open those doors for yourself than like trying to do it like bootstrapped in a small scale operation kind of way. So yeah.
Pretty cool. Okay, maybe one last question before we can wrap is, what is the most overrated skill that you see in founders?
Overrated skill.
What's something that's all the rage in Twitter but is absolutely not true in real life?
I think this whole personal branding thing, right? I'm still kind of like torn between how I feel about it. I don't think you need to. I think you need to have influence as a founder, but you necessarily don't have to. Like if it's not coming naturally to you, then just don't like try to like force fit it, right? Like not
Say this while we're
that's why I gave that caveat while like saying this. So if it comes naturally to you, if you enjoy doing it, if there's like a purpose to doing it, that's fine. But then if you're hiring a ghostwriter, if you have like an army of people whose entire job is to just churn out content just for you to build some sort of like a personal brand, right? Which yeah, like I think influence without like any substance like just doesn't make sense. Which I feel like a lot of people like just go build your company. Like it's
Yeah. A lot of
I'm saying that to you.
a lot of people spending a lot of time on UGC campaigns too.
Yeah.
Oh, they
truly.
Cluey didn't. But there's a guy, 18-year-old kid who ran the entire UGC campaign for Whisperflow. He was an intern. He was
Oh, yeah.
he was at Waterloo. and as soon so he like published what he did as a part of the UDC
Yeah.
and how it was so successful. He got picked up by Polymarket the next day. Oh, well.
See, again, right? That's I think, what I guess most founders need to be like. You don't have to obsess about your own personal brand, but I think increasingly founders need to be in tune with what's happening around the world, right? Like, I would love to get this intern on board and like
Yeah.
work with. I think you're just like depriving yourself of like such great talent, ideas, and stuff like that if you're not being online. Like, if there's just so many people who's like who probably don't even know like Claude Co-Work has come out and like how it could possibly like change a lot of things, right? So I think that's possibly the underrated thing. I think people need to be online more, but like, certain like respectable amount.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Are you saying for finding talent or for putting your skills out there?
I think both. I mean, I get a lot of like great talent just by talking about the roles that we're hiring for on Twitter, right? Which I probably would not have access to otherwise, because how else will I know those people? Because they also don't have access to us because our networks are not overlapping in any way, right? So, yeah, I think being online helps, but I'm saying like don't be like obsessively online.
Makes sense. Touch grass.
Touch grass, bro. Touch grass. Cool.
Awesome. I think that was great. Very insightful. Thank you so much for your time, Neha.
Of course.
And yeah, great time in Bangalore. If anyone else wants to hit us up, happy to just, leave a comment, like, subscribe.
By the way, we went shopping. He has a whole new.
Why is he talking about your wardrobe?
He has a whole new wardrobe. The next podcast, he's gonna be.
Are you wearing something you guys got
He's not.
yesterday?
This is what he
I'm
wears.
asking you.
Me? No, I didn't. I didn't wear anything.
Okay, say bye to that camera and that camera at the same time. But
Which camera? My camera?
sure,
I've always done my camera.
We're waving at the camera.
waving at the camera. So okay, I think
Good.
let's call it. All right. Thank you so
Exciting.
much for watching, guys. Peace.
Yeah.
Huge.